Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we return to Passant, a chess roguelike. Now those of you that saw the first episode of this will know that the fact that we're returning to this means that this is not the demo anymore. This is now the full release of the game, which is very exciting. You'll also notice if you divert your attention over here that arrow drawing has now been added to the game, so any of you that missed my terrible arrows from chess.com can now see my terrible arrows here as well. Now there have been a few things added to the game, but the dev told me to specifically try out setup number 4, so we'll investigate what that is and give it a go. Of course, I plan to make future videos of this because this is now a fully fleshed out game that will probably require a couple of episodes, and I will go back and do other setups and other variations as well. But for now, let's investigate what's up with this setup 4. All right, here obviously we have setup number 1, which is a wall of pawns, a king, and a courtesan, but we are interested not in 2, not in 3. Was that a duck? Wait a minute. Maybe we are interested in 3. Start with a duck? What's setup 2 now? Oh, it's like atomic chess. There's 3 knights. Okay, there's definitely stuff that we need to explore here, but I was instructed first to check out setup number 4, so that's exactly what we will do. Called slip and push, we get a wall of pawns, or rather 6 of them, and 2 bishops, as well as, of course, our king. Now, in this setup, we start with the slippy and push badges. If you're not sure what a badge is, I do recommend you go and check out the first 2 episodes where we do play the demo, but I will do my best to explain as we go along. Badges are basically sort of like power-ups that are active for the entire game that somehow change or manipulate the rules of the game. You'll see here we also have coins, which are one-time use only. So the first badge that we have is push mode. When you move without capturing, pieces next to where you land are pushed away, if space allows. Push pieces can fall off the board. This feels like my karma for threatening the king to get thrown off the board in the first episode that we ever played of this. But okay, we can make a move. It pushes our piece 1 square away if there's room for it, and that also means that pieces can fall off the board. Slippy chess. Whenever you move a piece, it moves 1 extra square in the direction it was moving if a piece does not occupy that cell. Pieces again can fall off the board. Jumping moves don't slip, however. Okay, interesting. As far as the coins go, we get a pawn coin, which allows us to demote 1 of the opponent's pieces, and we get a money coin, which gives us half the value of any given piece that we want to give up. At the moment, we're not starting off with much, so I don't believe either of those will be of interest. Let's go ahead and start. All right, for the first round, we can accept either a standard match, a challenging match, or we can skip the round, at which point, what's the point in making the video? So looking at standard, we have 4 pawns that we would face. Now, we are equipped with 2 bishops and a whole row of pawns, so 4 pawns is a little bit underwhelming. The challenging mode, however, has 2 pawns and a rook, as well as a little more cash if we manage to defeat this. This is also just by standard chess rules, completely winning, so let's go with challenging. All right, we now have the board before us. We have our opposite colored bishops, our army of pawns, and our very content king. If you look to the left, you'll see we have victory conditions. Just a little refresher. You don't just win with checkmate in Passant, you can win with any of the victory conditions. So of course that includes checkmate, right? That's why we're on the channel. It also includes taking all of the enemy pieces, not including the king, checking the king 6 turns in a row, the enemy king of course, or scoring +7 for 2 turns. Now, frankly, the 2 most common ones were taking all of the enemy pieces, especially if they don't start off with much to begin with, and giving the checks, because usually before you get to a checkmate, you've already handed out a decent number of checks. Okay, quick review. Push mode. Pieces can be pushed if they're adjacent to where your piece lands, given that there's room, and also don't forget that pieces can fall off the board. And slippy, meaning that anywhere you move, the piece can slip 1 square further as long as nobody is occupying that space. So I guess I should test this out to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. It would not be the first time that I've misunderstood a rule set and paid for it dearly. So I assume if I drop the bishop here on g3, it will quote unquote slip to f4. Okay, cool, that's exactly what happens, and it seems the same thing happens for the enemy pawn. It advances to d6, but actually slips to d5, which makes me wonder if that's not just a free pawn. Because if I take it with the bishop, you would think my bishop would slip to e6. Okay, this is gonna be one costly lesson if I'm incorrect, but I'm pretty sure I can just take this pawn. Okay, nice. I actually did understand what was happening. Sweet. So we did get a free pawn. We're met with rook to d4, now threatening the bishop, but only sort of, I think, because should the enemy actually capture my bishop, I assume they would slip to g4, which means that rook is free in the eyes of my own bishop. So maybe that's not actually an issue. Yeah, I think our bishop is fine. This also raises another question, which is that should I push my pawn, would it slip to b5 and effectively give me 3 pawn pushes in 1 turn? I think that is worth investigating. Worst case scenario, we lose a pawn. But no, it actually does slip up to b5. Okay, sweet. So promoting your pawn should be pretty straightforward then. We get king up to g6. Again, I don't think that threatens anything brand new. So if I push my pawn, it will now slip to b7. So this is pretty sweet. We get king to f6, which now does threaten the bishop. Or wait, no, it doesn't, right? Because should the opponent take the bishop, if they even can, the king would quote unquote slip to d6, which would put it in the line of sight of my own bishop. So I don't even think that's a legal move. So, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I was gonna say, now we can promote on b8, but it's just dawned on me that if I promote, I think I might slip off the board. I think that's why they gave so much emphasis to the idea that pieces slip. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'm hoping it won't. And it does. All right, see you later. Okay, so all of those pawn pushes were pretty much for nothing. We're met with rook to e4 after that devastating loss of the queen. Okay, so maybe this is a little more invested than I thought, because to be honest, my approach for most of these games, the first time that I went through the demo, was going for the pawn promotion, because there's a tendency not to start with enough pawns to stop me from promoting, but I guess promoting is kind of useless now. We're met with rook to e4, which does threaten to capture the bishop on e6. So I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, whoa. Bishop to h3 would have dropped it off the board. But bishop to g4 lands it on h3, which is what I actually wanted to play. It also pushes my pawn back to f1. So now we have pawns on the first rank. Okay, this is turning out to be a lot more involved than I originally thought it would be. We get king to h4, which again kind of threatens the bishop, but then again not really, because should it capture the bishop, it would move to h2, which would be illegal. So I'm pretty sure it can't even take. Let's go ahead and play pawn to f3, threaten the rook. Whoa, and okay, wow, okay. I'm starting to realize the slip badge is not really an issue. It's more like an underlying thing that you just have to be careful that you don't fall into. The push badge is a huge headache because I'm now realizing I have to manually calculate these pushes. I've now had two pawns, or rather one pawn and one bishop pushed by my move to f3. Actually, not to mention the enemy's own rook was pushed to d5, which now sets up a completely different threat. So this is now a totally different position that we're dealing with. We do get the king sliding past the illegal square to slide into f4, which is a legal move. And it's even stranger too, because here, for example, I like to play bishop to e4. It anchors my pawn on f3 and it hits the rook on d5, but the problem is the bishop would just slip to d3, ultimately pushing this pawn back to b1, and that's a free bishop at that point. So you have to be really careful here. I wonder if I can even move my king. Oh, I can, but wouldn't that just slip it into the line of sight of the enemy king? For science. Oh, it would, but it pushes him away, so it is a legal move. It also flies our bishop off the board and loses us the bishop on g5. So was that worth it? Probably not, but I've now experimented 4 different times. It was about time that one of them didn't pay off. Let's play pawn to d4, I guess. Pushes the pawn back, we get pawn to e4. This is no longer a winning position. So instead of biting the bullet, I will use these undos to go back 1 and 2 moves. So we did it for science, we won't do it again. That also means we only have 1 undo remaining and we're only on the first round, so this is pretty tough. The other problem is I'm having a hard time formulating an actual strategy. I guess let's go pawn to c3. It would slip to c4 and push the enemy rook. Oh, it would push the enemy rook back to e6, wouldn't it? Which would threaten the king. Okay, I know I said I wouldn't do another one for science, but this one's also for science. Okay, cool. So it would actually lose us the game. So we're allowed to put ourselves in check, but we do have to be prepared to lose the game. So I guess we should probably undo that move. Not the best idea we've ever had. Now with 0 undos remaining, and I don't believe any questions left, I think we mostly understand how this works now. We have to start thinking of how we're actually going to win this. I didn't want to use it so soon, but we've compromised our position so terribly that I think we're going to want to use the pawn coin. We're going to go ahead and demote the rook to a pawn. Wow, and the opponent slips away with our bishop with the double king capture. So maybe the king is stronger than I thought. Let's play king to e2. It does push our pawns back. We get pawn to e5 in response. Let's go bishop back to g2, repositions the bishop, also pushes the g4 pawn rather, and we get pawn to e4, which should mean we can just take. The opponent takes back with the double capture, and we take back on f3, winning all of the enemy pieces, and thus winning us the first round. Okay, tough match. I think we learned a lot about how these two badges work, and we've also made a smooth $6. Let's proceed to the shop and see if we can buy ourselves some new pieces. Whoa, who are you? The archer, special rules. The archer does not move while taking, but remains in its current square. Ooh, that's kind of interesting, and he's only $4. We've got $12 to work with in total. I guess we should look at the badges first. Field promotion: on round start, mark 1 square. If a friendly piece is moved to that square, upgrade it to a piece 3 to 4 value higher. Whoa, that is sounding a lot like a free queen potentially. The other badge is mine now. The first non-king piece you take in a match is added to your current setup if there's space, which also sounds very promising, to be honest. We have another demotion coin, which is almost always a good investment to strip the opponent of good pieces. And we have helping hand. Immediately give a random piece on your setup board a special modifier. I've never been a fan of these modifiers because they give me more rules to worry about, and I'm already trying to break the game with the badges that we are given. We can also re-roll for $2, but to be honest, we have so little cash that I don't think that's worth it. I'm thinking Archer and Demotion coin, and then we would have $5 left, which I think is a healthy amount to take into the next round. So let's go ahead and grab the Archer and a Demotion coin. Now we can also reposition these pieces. So I'm pretty sure, well, let's see, with these badges, does that change anything? I don't think it does. I'm gonna move this bishop back to C1 and put the Archer, actually, let's put the Archer in the middle of the board. No, that doesn't make sense, does it? I'm confused. Let's go like this. I think this makes sense. The Archer sees across the board down to H7, but it can also be developed to D3 to move to E4 and look at the queen side on B7. So I think this is a good setup to start with. Wait a minute, that does mean we have 2 dark squared bishops. Okay, 1 minor adjustment. We're ready to go. All right, again, we have standard, which in this case offers 2 bishops and 3 pawns, or challenging, which starts with a rook, 2 bishops, and a pawn. Wait a second, doesn't that mean I can just, hold on. We're doing a little bit of rerouting here. I should be able to just put the bishop on the long diagonal, or rather, let me rephrase, the archer on the long diagonal. Now looking at H8, and because the archer does not move while taking, but remains in its current square, this is extremely powerful considering we're playing slippy chess, because that means I can capture on the edge of the board, and my archer won't disappear off the edge. So I think that's that's very strong. I think this is exactly how we want to start the game. Besides that, I don't think we have anything else we want to change, so let's just go with challenging. All right, sweet. On the very first, oh, the archer only moves 2 squares out. I've just realized why this doesn't work. No. Oh, goodness. Okay, I was thinking the archer could reach all the way across the board. The archer only moves 2 squares in any direction. Yeah, and that makes sense too, because in the explanation thing, it would have an arrow in the 4 corners if the archer could capture or move further than that. So that one's on me. Okay, let's develop the bishop out of the way in that case. Actually, no. Let's just demote the rook. We're gonna have to do it anyways. Might as well get it out of the way now. We get pawn to E5. We would be able to take that if we wanted to lose the bishop on D6. So we're maybe not going to do that. Let's go pawn to E3, which equals pawn to E4. Pushes the pawn back, and the pawn returns. I have to remember, I have to manually calculate these pushes. Let's go bishop to C4, which is basically check on B5, which develops the king to E6. Now, I'm happy to see the king so excited about developing. I'm just not sure if it's safe. Let's go king to E2. Actually, no, that puts my king in danger as well. So I'm thinking maybe D4 is a possibility. Would push the pawn back, but then the enemy king could capture on E4. And I don't think they'd have to face the music for that either. Then their king would be in the middle of the board. I don't know if it's worth it. Let's give it a try. At least to open up the king's position, I think it's worth it. Oh, pawn goes to D5. I completely forgot that I was supposed to click on D3. Well, I've been now bamboozled by these badges several times. We get bishop to F6, looks at the archer. Unfortunately, the archer does not look back. And I'm not even totally sure I have anywhere to move it. I guess I can move it to D4. It'll slide up to E5, which means should the bishop take, I can take back. Now we get the bishop capturing on C5, also giving check on B4 after the slip, which means I do have to move my king out of the way. And this is actually a problem because I don't think my king can ever be on a light square unless I like run it into a pawn. Because in any other situation, I have to move my king twice and it will always land on a dark square again, which is unfortunate. Okay, let's go king to E2. I mean, might as well start playing a little bit aggressive. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Okay, luckily they trade off the bishop for the archer. That is a wonderful trade. I totally forgot that I was going to triple my pawns with the push. I mean, look at that. That's basically a pawn on H2. That's pretty tough. I can't even take back, can I? Wait a minute, this is pretty bad. Should I take back, my king would slip on C5 and then the bishop would take. Okay, we're definitely undoing that move. That was terrible decision making. Okay, let's go here instead. Pushes the pawn up to C3, threatens the bishop. Oh, who does take? Nice, which means I can take back. I slip to E3, but that's not an issue because nobody's defending that. We get pawn to G4, slips to G3. I believe I can just take. Nice, and then we grab that bishop, which has been traded for the archer. We are now again winning. Nice, and we can grab the pawn on H6. It does drop the bishop off the edge of the board, but it wins us the game by capturing all of the enemy's pieces. All right, and we've made a profit of $6. Don't mind if I do. Let's see what that grabs us in the shop. We've lost a net $1 in the last round, but we've advanced now to the Grandmaster round. Okay, we've got some very strange looking badges. High turnover. The first piece, badge, or coin sold after completing a match can be sold for its full purchase price. Or we can get the 2-for-1 badge. On round start, destroy a random friendly piece. Mark 2 opponent pieces that when taken, add a copy of the destroyed piece to the board. Whoa, that's really strange. Okay, so basically, at the beginning we destroy one of our own friendly pieces, preferably a stronger piece. And then we mark 2 of the enemy pieces such that when those 2 enemy pieces are captured by us, hopefully at some point, the piece that we destroyed of our own at the beginning gets copied and added to the board for each capture for a total of 2. Again, assuming you actually get to capture those pieces. It sounds like an interesting strategy, but it also sounds like it starts us off weaker to eventually get us stronger, and I'm not sure that I've played enough Passant yet to go for such a bold strategy. Other than that, we have a man who would ultimately move like that, but actually 1 square further out. We've got a camel, which is my least favorite piece in all of variant chess ever. And we've got this very cool looking rainbow bishop. When taken, spawn a random piece with a value less than half of this one. So basically a pawn. Let's grab it anyways because it looks cool. We'll also grab a demotion coin, which is now sold out. And for the last $5, is there anything that I want to do? I mean, I guess I could just grab a man, because why not? Grab some pawns. Emergency pawns. We've got a money coin, sure. If I re-roll, I'll only have $3 left anyway, so I might as well just purchase the man. All right, let's move on to the next, but actually last round. Here you don't get to choose what you do. We're facing a row of pawns, 2 knights, a king, and the modifier is cracked vase. When your pieces take, they become unstable. And if I remember correctly, unstable means that there's a certain percentage chance of losing that piece thereafter, like for every move or maybe every capture, which is not great news. Is there anything we can do to this setup to make it optimal for fighting this? Well, first thing we can do is get this darn archer out of the way. I would place the rainbow bishop on b2, but I'm gonna be honest, my biggest fear is that it's going to spawn a pawn, and that pawn is going to blow my pieces off the board. That I'm not very excited about learning more about. So I'm going to place a regular bishop on b2 so it stares at the pawn on g7. As far as the man goes, I guess the man could be a good like piece pusher. So we'll put him on f2. And for the last piece, I guess this bishop is fine on h2. It looks at c7, which is technically also a free pawn. Is there anything I want to do with the archer? Not particularly. I think we're good where, well, there's no mobility for this piece. Okay, let's do a little bit of rerouting here. I think maybe this is a good way to start. All right, let's rock and roll. Activating boss badge. It is now our turn. So we can capture this pawn from the get-go, which would slip our bishop to h8. And also turn it unstable, which means it has a 1 in 3 chance to destroy itself when capturing any future piece. Okay, so it's not as bad as 1 in 3 chance of destroying itself on every move. It's only when you capture future pieces. I believe we can also grab this pawn. Don't mind if I do. Now we have 2 unstable bishops. That's great. We get a pawn to a4. And to be honest, I think my strategy here is just to take everything that the enemy has. So I'm going to get rid of this rainbow bishop, who frankly I'm kind of afraid of. Well, actually, if I get rid of it, it will give me the pawn. You know what? You only live once. Let's give it a try. So we get rid of it. Oh, it spawns the pawn, but it doesn't push anything. Okay, this is good. And this is why you have to experiment the first time you get back into anything. I mean, you might as well find out the hard way the first time and know it moving forward. We get pawn to b4. Is there anything new we can do here? I like bishop to c7. Slides the bishop up to d6. Threatens the knight, threatens the pawn. Nice, we get knight to e6. We can take this pawn, but again, there's a 1 in 3 chance that the bishop disappears when we capture. I still think it's worth it though. Okay, nice. And we actually do get it. Oh, not to mention knight to c5. Don't mind if I do. And we get a pawn to f5 as well. We've now captured 3 pieces with this bishop, and it has not destroyed itself. So far, so good. I really can't ask for more luck than that. We'll target the knight on d8 as well, but it moves out of the way to b7. We might as well grab f4 while we're here. And we still have the bishop. Nice. We get pawn to d5. So far, so good. And pretty much, I think I'm willing to lose anything here. Let's go. Wait a minute. If I go man to e3, it'll slip to d4, which pushes this pawn back, pushes this pawn out to f4. Which pretty much guarantees the opponent would take, but then I can take back with the king. And again, my strategy now is just to get rid of all the enemy's pieces. Oh, never mind. It takes here, but it slips to h2, which means I can just take back anyways. Oh, and he slides off the board. Okay, well, I forgot about that, to be honest. We get king to c6. I mean, I still think I'm sound in the strategy. I just have to be a lot more careful than whatever that was that just happened in the execution. Wait a second, while we're here, we might as well demote that knight, see you later alligator, which is now a pesky pawn, which advances to b5. Let's go ahead and play the archer to d3, which means literally moving it to c2, which pushes my pieces out, but now threatens the pawn on b5. And again, my plan here is to just get rid of all the enemy pieces. Wait, I can take this for free, can't I? Nice, we basically shoot an arrow. It is unstable now, but we do get a free pawn. We get pawn to h5 on the other side of the board. This pawn can't move anymore though. If it moves to h4, it slips to h3. That's a free pawn. So we'll capture on d6, which slides us up to d7. It seems like a lot of our pieces are unstable now, but we do get pawn to h3, which means we can take, eliminating all of the enemy's pieces and winning us the game. Now, what is our gratuitous reward? $8. Okay, we'll take it. With that, we do defeat all 3 rounds in the first level. To complete a full run, we would have to play 2 more levels, which I am very excited to do, but this is all the time that I have for today's episode. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Go check out Passant, now fully available on Steam. Let me know down below what you guys think of the game, and let me know if you have any strategies for playing against slipping or pushing pieces. I will see you guys in the next one.